Your ZZ plant isn't lazy. The root system underground, it's starving. And if you've been watering more, moving it to a sunnier spot, just waiting, you've been solving the wrong problem. Here's what I'm going to show you. 3 kitchen scraps, $0, that unlock new growth and glossy leaves in 7 to 14 days. No repotting, no chemicals, no guesswork. But first, a question. What if the 3 things you throw in the trash every single day are exactly what your plant's roots are begging for? Here's what we're covering. First, why your ZZ's roots shut down, and the one mistake that makes it worse. Second, the exact science behind each of the 3 ingredients. Third, how to prepare, apply, and what not to do. I'll keep it under 8 minutes, and by the end, you'll have a dead simple recipe you can start today, with stuff already in your kitchen. Let's get into it. Before you mix anything, you need to understand what's actually happening, because the wrong fix, it'll make things worse. Here are the 5 signs your ZZ's rhizome is running on empty. No new shoots in 6 months or more, even during the growing season. Leaves that look dull, no shine, dust sticks easily. Yellowing that starts at the bottom and moves up. Stems that feel soft, almost floppy. And if you dig carefully, wrinkled, shrunken roots underground. Here's the thing. Most people see these signs and think, more water, more sun. Or they just accept it. Zizan plants grow slow. That's just how it is. Watering more is actually the most dangerous mistake here. Too much water with poor drainage. The roots suffocate. Fungi move in. I've seen completely healthy ZZ'd plants go from fine to collapsed in under 2 weeks from overwatering alone. Here's why this works the way it does. Think of the ZZ rhizome, that bulb-like root underground, as a central energy bank. It stores water and minerals. When conditions are good, it invests by pushing out new shoots. But when the soil runs out of key minerals, especially potassium, the rhizome senses the risk. It stops investing. It goes into conservation mode. Not laziness, survival. The bank is frozen because the account is empty. So the fix isn't more water. It isn't more light. It's reloading the mineral account, so the rhizome feels safe enough to invest again. So which 3 kitchen scraps can reload that bank? Let me show you. 3 ingredients. Each one does a completely different job, and you cannot swap them out. They work together as a system. Number 1, overripe banana peel. The darker, the better. Black spots, totally soft. That's what you want. Here's why it works. The potassium content in an overripe banana peel. We're talking 11,730 milligrams per 100 grams. Compare that to a fresh green peel, just 245 milligrams. That's a 48 times difference. Same fruit, different stage. Potassium regulates water movement inside the plant. It rebuilds the waxy cutin layer. That's what gives ZZ leaves their signature gloss. It also restores turgor pressure. which is why stems go from floppy back to firm and upright. Number 2. Spent coffee grounds. Dry ones, not fresh out of the filter. And I know exactly what you're thinking. Coffee is acidic. Won't that hurt my plant? Here's the thing. Most of the acid goes into your cup, not the grounds. Spent coffee grounds measure around 6.5 to 6.8 pH, nearly neutral. What they actually do is feed the soil microbiome, the beneficial bacteria and fungi that break down organic matter and make nutrients available to your roots. Coffee grounds also help suppress harmful soil fungi, the exact pathogens that attack ZZ roots in waterlogged conditions. Think of them as a probiotic for your potting mix. Number 3. Biochar. This one surprises most people, and it's the ingredient that holds everything together. Think of biochar like a sponge, a super porous carbon structure with enormous surface area. It absorbs the potassium from the banana peel and the nutrients from the coffee grounds, holds them inside its pores, then slowly releases them to the roots over weeks and months. That slow release is the key difference. Without it, the next time you water, most of those nutrients wash straight through. Biochar also creates macro pores in your soil, tiny air channels that keep oxygen flowing to the roots. ZZ plants hate waterlogged roots. Those pores are basically a free, permanent alternative to perlite that never breaks down. One non-negotiable: do not use barbecue charcoal. BBQ charcoal contains sodium nitrate, lighter fluid residue, sometimes added lime. That combination will burn your roots and can contaminate the soil. Only biochar, or food-grade activated charcoal. Now, if you put these ingredients in your pot the wrong way, you'll end up with a mold farm in 5 days, not new growth. That's exactly what we're covering next. Grab a pen, write this down. This is the exact recipe for a standard 20-centimeter pot. Ingredient 1: 2 to 3 overripe banana peels, the ones with black spots. Slice them thin, then dry completely, either in a low oven at around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius or in direct sun until they're fully brittle. Then grind to a fine powder. You're aiming for about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons. Do not use fresh peel. Fresh peel attracts fungus gnats within 48 hours. Ingredient 2: 2 tablespoons of spent coffee grounds. Spread them out on a flat surface. Let them air dry for 1 to 2 days until they're completely loose and crumbly. Not clumped, not damp. Damp coffee grounds packed on top of soil creates a solid crust that blocks oxygen completely. Ingredient 3: half a cup, roughly 100 milliliters of biochar. That's about 10 to 20% of your top soil volume. Now, the charging step. This is what most people skip, and it makes a massive difference. Mix all 3 dry ingredients together. Mist lightly with warm water until just barely damp. Seal in a container for 24 to 48 hours. The biochar will absorb the potassium and nutrients from the other two, loading them into its pores before you even touch the soil. To apply, loosen the top 2 to 3 centimeters of soil gently and stay away from the rhizome underneath. Sprinkle the charged mix in a ring around the inside edge of the pot, not right against the stem. Cover with a thin layer of soil. Then give a light watering to activate the microbes. In 7 to 14 days, watch for the first signs: new shoot tips breaking through the soil surface, leaves developing that waxy shine again. Not every plant responds at exactly the same pace, and that's completely normal. But if your drainage is right and the rhizome is healthy, you will see movement. Repeat every 30 to 45 days during the growing season, spring through summer. In between, every 15 to 20 days, you can use banana tea. Soak one peel in warm water for 24 to 48 hours. Strain it. Use as regular watering. And stop completely when temperatures drop below 15 degrees Celsius. The plant goes dormant, it won't absorb anything. And organic matter sitting in cold, wet soil just causes problems. Pet owners, this is important. Coffee grounds contain residual caffeine. Dogs and cats cannot metabolize caffeine the way we do. It can cause seizures and is potentially fatal in small amounts. After applying, always cover the mix with a layer of soil. Then add a layer of pebbles on top so pets cannot dig in. Banana peel powder is chemically harmless, but grind it fine. Large pieces can cause mechanical blockages if swallowed. 3 mistakes that will undo all of this. 1. Applying damp coffee grounds in a thick layer. It creates an organic crust, blocks oxygen, and turns white with mold within days. 2. Burying large pieces of fresh banana. Fermenting fruit attracts fungus gnats and causes anaerobic rot at the root level. 3. Using this mix if your plant already has root rot. Organic matter in a sick plant feeds the pathogens, not the roots. Less is more. Every single time. Now, I promised you an answer to that question from the beginning. Your Zizol plant isn't lazy. It's in survival mode because the rhizome underground has run out of the minerals it needs to invest in new growth. 3 kitchen scraps, overripe banana peel, spent coffee grounds, biochar. Each one handles a different piece. Potassium to restore leaf health and stem strength. A soil microbiome to unlock nutrient availability, and a slow-release reservoir to feed the roots for weeks. Dry it, grind it, charge it. Apply in a ring, and let the rhizome do the rest. So, can 3 things you throw away every day trick a plant's survival instincts and force it to grow? Yes, but here's the real answer. You're not tricking it. You're giving the rhizome back exactly what the potting soil slowly lost. It was waiting for this the whole time. Apply this once, and I'm willing to bet your neighbors will ask what you're doing differently. And you'll just smile and say, "Kitchen trash." Here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? And how long has your ZZ plant gone without a new shoot? I read every single one. If you know someone whose ZZ plant is just sitting there doing nothing, share this video with them. And if you want a new gardening trick every week, hit subscribe and the bell. You won't regret it. Happy gardening.